I'm Kathy Castro, your host, and I'm so happy you joined us today. We're going to talk first to Michael Cockran, who is one of the artists of the present exhibit here at the Grimshaw Goodowitz Gallery at Bristol Community College. So welcome, Michael. Nice to have you here today. And your exhibit is Emotional Structures.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And you're sharing a space in this with, let me get the other gentleman. Lloyd Martin,
from
yeah.
Providence.
Now, tell us a little bit about yourself, Michael. And we started to talk actually before the show started on what you did, where you were, who you are, all that.
I'm one of those reverse immigrants. I'm originally from California.
Oh, yeah.
And I moved east. And so I've been on the East Coast for about 30 years now, and New York before New England. I teach here in the local area at Bristol. Not at Bristol, but at Bridgewater State.
Yep. Yeah. And how did you get involved in the arts? What was these are what we call the fine arts, right?
Yes, correct.
Painting and
yeah, visual arts. Kind of backwardly, really. I wasn't trained originally as an artist. I was trained as an industrial designer, and then just followed it. Went back to school.
Now, what exactly is an industrial designer?
Product design.
Oh, okay.
That sort of thing, and packaging design, automotive design.
Money in that, I would think.
Yes, that's probably the reason I went into it at the time. I got out of the Navy in the very early 70s and decided I wanted to do what my heart, told me to do, which was go into sculpture, and that's the direction I went. Went back to graduate school and teaching jobs in California, and then moved to the East Coast in the mid-80s.
Yeah, what drew you here?
Well, the whole art scene really in New York in the early and mid-80s. And I lived there for a dozen years, and then moved to Boston.
Now, who would have been some of the big names at that time in New York, with galleries? Some names that we might know.
Well, probably people like Tony Shafrazi and other. I mean, there were a number of people who were breaking out, particularly in the East Village scene at that time. Some have disappeared. But others have really gone on to great fame and fortune for that as well. And the number of the galleries as well. There were lots of small galleries that opened at that time. And then eventually they either grew or they kind of disappeared.
They disappeared, yeah. Now, are there any particular artists that you admire, whose work you...
Probably the earlier artists. I'm a big fan of Brancusi and people along that very refined kind of ethic, and so I really enjoy his work all the years. And art history. I teach art history now.
Oh, you do?
I've taught studio for years, but now I teach art history, and that's been a big influence.
I love that subject, yeah.
And then a great designer and genius was Buckminster Fuller, who I studied with for about 6 months in California. Great influence on me in thinking and in just the forms that I work with. But certainly in the thinking.
And what are some of the forms that you work with?
Well, Fuller was a believer in the simplicity of things. He could describe something in a matter of seconds that it would take hours for someone else to captivate. I work a lot with triangles. I work a lot with tetrahedral forms, and those are the really essential forms. The tetrahedron is 4 sides, the simplest three-dimensional form basically in the universe. And so that has been a big... And
you build out from there or in from there, whatever it may, however
right.
it may
Well,
work.
that's the primary focus.
Right, yeah.
So, and then historical forms as well. I like I've studied ancient cultures, and that has a big influence on my work as well.
And they sort of all go back to the same, it's like I teach writing and literature, analyzing literature as one of the courses, and they all kind of go back to the same basic forms, the triangle and the pyramids and the...
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's cyclical, really.
It is, yeah, yeah.
So we see a lot of that, and it's bound to be that way.
So now you're in New York, and you've left sunny California.
Right. Big change. Very exciting time, it really was. I lived there until the late, I think I left in about 97 and moved to the Boston area. So it was New York at that time was really tons of fun, a lot going on. I did a lot of exhibiting, teaching. I taught at Columbia. I ran an art school there for a number of years.
It must have been fun.
It really was. Yeah,
Did
terrific.
you meet anybody at that time that you felt was very promising that might have gone on and done?
Well, there were some friends who I knew in California who lived there, who moved there. Stephen Westfall, who writes for Art in America, has become very prominent and is quite well known at this point in time. There are just a number of people who have made that move, gone to where, quote, the action is, right?
Right, right, yeah. Well, you sort
It's
of
a
have to do
marketplace.
that. You
It's
do.
a tremendous marketplace. I think it's changed a lot in the last 15 or so years because now it's gotten so expensive. But it's a great place for marketing one's art.
Exactly, yeah, and becoming well known,
Yeah.
yeah, or certainly better known. So now you're in
Exactly.
Boston.
Yes.
So, what's going on here?
Oh, well, I was an administrator at one of the local state universities there, and then I moved out. I went into picture framing. I worked in the picture framing industry for about 8 years, then went back into teaching, taught a little bit at RISD, and then Bridgewater State, where I've been for the last 14 years.
And are you teaching art, primarily art history there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I teach primarily online now, and it's been a
Do
lot of
you
fun.
really?
Mhm. I developed their first online art history course.
And you're finding that satisfying?
It
and-
really is.
Really?
It really is. I know it sounds a little remote, but it's actually, you can interact a lot more with students online than sometimes in the classroom.
In the classroom,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And the class size is a bit smaller as well, which helps.
Really?
Yes.
What would your average be?
Well, it's always full. The students love, because most of the students are working. And so the cap is 25 students, so
25,
it's
yeah.
easier to work with 25 than it is for 35 or 40. That's
Oh,
for sure.
definitely, yeah, yeah.
So I enjoy that, really do.
And so tell us a little bit about your own, you talked about the triangles and other figures that you sort of gravitate toward, use a lot in your work, and tell us a little bit about the sort of the evolution, I guess, of your work. And
One of the other things that I utilize a lot is gold leaf. I've been working with gold leaf since 1982, and gold is this wonderful material that certainly does not oxidize, doesn't rust. It has a wonderful kind of symbolic quality. It also is this wonderful light reflecting capability. And so I use gold on the sculptures, I use gold in the paper pieces that I do. A lot of the color is used, it's taken actually from Egyptian sarcophagi and a lot of the hieroglyphic forms. That's where the color evolves. The gold is, I just feel, well, even the Egyptians consider it to be the skin of the gods.
Oh, really?
So, yes, and other cultures as well.
Yeah.
In the Mayan culture, it was felt that way too. So it's a material that now I use that in conjunction with work on paper that the forms evolve from patterns. My wife and I do a great deal of traveling. So I get patterns from cathedrals and patterns from ancient sites, even
Right.
prehistoric sites. And I utilize those patterns, and then that evolves into compositions then. Well, always with the gold, somehow or another,
Somehow,
that
yeah,
gold
well,
coming through from
I'm all for gold.
Yeah.
No, it's beautiful.
It is.
It always adds that little extra, you could call it bling, call it whatever you want, but I love the idea of the skin of the gods.
Yeah,
It's great.
Well, I think of it more of as a symbolic.
It's symbolic, of
Material,
course,
yeah.
yeah. What will people see when they come to the gallery here? And we're open, I think it's through, let me just get the dates. I know it opened on the 24th.
I think it
January
closes on
the
the
24th, and it
21st.
Closes on the, the 21st of February, so they've got basically this month.
It's
to
a
see
huge
the
gallery.
exhibit,
I mean,
yeah.
it's almost 2,000 square feet. It's a beautiful space.
Oh, it is beautiful, isn't
And
it?
yes,
Yeah.
it really is.
The light that comes in, it's just
terrific.
beautiful.
Three
yeah.
big skylights and
Yeah.
ambient light through the side windows. My colleague Lloyd Martin has 7 very large, beautiful paintings that are based on architectural forms with a lot of emotional gesture within them. I have several large sculptures, one that's over 10 feet high,
Wow.
another one that's about 6 feet high, also with a little bit of gold there at the
Yeah,
top.
yeah.
I just counted 23 works on paper that go all the way back to 1982. A couple of smaller bronze pieces. So it's a mix. In a way, for me, it's kind of a mini retrospective.
I was going to say that's what it sounds like, yeah.
It's kind of wonderful to have an opportunity to show that broad range, that chronology, really, of someone's work.
How did you come in? I know it's Kathleen Hancock. She does a wonderful job.
She does.
The curator here. So tell me how you arrived
How did it happen?
at PCC, yeah.
Well, Lloyd and I have known each other for a long time, and so we wanted to show together. We never have. We've been to each other's studios and talked about.
And where is he, Michael?
He's in North Providence.
Oh, okay.
He has a studio in North Providence and shown a great deal around the country. So we looked at our work and wrote basically a proposal to the gallery to
nice.
exhibit
That's
our work.
great, yeah.
And
I know she likes the pairings, and I know she does very well, Kathleen, with putting even people that don't know each other.
Sure.
Putting the work together.
Yes, she's very good at it.
She is, yes, yeah.
So that's basically, it took a while for it all to be approved and so forth, but we really enjoy seeing each other's work, this wonderful kind of collaboration.
And does he more or less mirror you as far as a time frame of working?
Lloyd has chosen 7 pieces that I think cover a span of 10 years.
Okay.
Mine covers, he's a bit younger, so
Yeah.
But mine covers, a long period of time. And but the collaboration works really well. The sense of geometry, the sense of that structure, along with the motion. I utilize more form, emotion through the forms. Lloyd utilizes the emotion probably through the gesture and the mark making and use of color.
Well, it sounds like a wonderful exhibit.
It really is.
I will be there hopefully this week myself. Good. And we certainly invite all of you to come and see Michael's work and Lloyd's work. It's free of charge here at Bristol Community College. The Grimshaw Gudowitz Gallery. The opening hours are Monday through Friday, 10 to 4, and Saturday, 1 to 4. So free, open to the public. Come and enjoy. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you, and it was a pleasure hearing about the work and all of the wonderful things you've done. Welcome back, everyone, to Arts Alive. I'm Kathy Castro, your host. And now it's my pleasure to have with us Bliss Point. I want to say Bliss Corner, but we said, no, that's not right. It's not Bliss Corner. It's Bliss Point. Where did that name come from? And I know you have that. Katie Lee.
Yes. She thinks Kathy because her name's Kathy, but that's okay. So the name, actually, Kelly thought of it, but it comes from a food industry term that is used to describe the perfect balance between salty and sweet flavors that keeps you literally craving stuff like junk food. But we just thought that was so great. Like, we're the perfect blend of salty and sweet, and it just applies to the way that we play our music and just our personalities, and it was just the perfect name for us.
Well, it sounds like it would be the perfect name for you with the lovely blend of music that we heard as you were setting up and getting ready to go. So, Kelly Ann.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Yeah, how you got involved in music. I was reading a little bit of your bio and your dad.
Yeah.
So just tell us about that.
All right. My dad, I come from a large Portuguese family, and my dad always played Portuguese guitar, and he was always singing around the house. So that's my love of music really stems from my father. And then I started playing the organ. I took organ lessons when I was 8 years old until I was about 12. And so that was like a base for me. And then after that, I picked up a guitar. I never really got good at it for a very long time. I had a guitar and I just tinkered with it. And then I joined a group called the Zooks, which is the Zeitarian Theater. They have a ukulele group. So I picked up a ukulele. I started joining the group, and it really increased my level of improvement because I was practicing every week. I was singing and playing at the same time. And then I started playing my guitar again. And
this is a ukulele.
It's a mandolin.
A mandolin.
So
it's very pretty.
Yeah, it's I love this thing. So I actually only started playing mandolin when Katie and I started playing together. it just seemed to work well with our music, and one of my friends allowed me to borrow a mandolin. So I did that for a while, and I just learned one song at a time, and yeah,
Here you are.
here I am now.
And what about you, Katie?
So my musical background is more in classical music. I started out as a violinist when I was young, about the same age that Kelly was learning how to play the organ. I was learning how to play the violin. And then I transitioned into vocal music when I was in high school and just never really stopped. I was a choral singer for a lot of years and studied classical voice and did a lot of classical oratorio kind of solo stuff. And several years ago, I just found myself in a place where I couldn't do music by myself. I had to be, in a choir or in a bigger group to be able to participate in music, and that didn't feel like enough. So a friend of mine suggested that I pick up a ukulele, and I did, and I've been playing it ever since, and here we are.
Yeah, it's not an instrument, ironically, that any of us hear a lot about. You remember Arthur Godfrey? You wouldn't remember him. You're too young. Yeah, he was big. I'm sure it was the ukulele that he played. But
Tiny Tim.
Tiny Tim was another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, where are you from originally, Katie?
So I grew up on the Cape, Hyannis mostly, and then I went to UMass Dartmouth, so I moved into this area. I lived in New Bedford, and I lived in Fall River for many years, and now I live in Dartmouth.
Okay, and Kellyanne?
I grew up in Dartmouth, born in Fall River actually. Grew up in Dartmouth, and then I moved away for college. I lived in Boston for a while, but now I live in Somerset. Came back to the area about maybe 10 years ago.
And the two of you got together?
The two of us got together about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was running an open mic while I was bartending at the Westport Social Club, and it was a very under the radar open mic, and one of our mutual friends told Katie about it. Katie came and played at my open mic, and I thought it was great. And then we knew each other from going to other open mics together, and we were casual friends for about a year, and then people started saying, oh, why don't you guys play together, And so we decided to practice one time. We're like, let's learn a song together. And then literally one song led to two, led to three, and then we just realized that there was a good thing that we had going, so we just kept going.
And here you are.
Here we are.
The sound is beautiful. So tell us what you're going to do first.
So the first song that we are going to play for you is actually a cover of The Boxer by Simon and Garfunkel.
I'm just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told. I have squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises. All lies and jest, still a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. When I left my home and family, I was no more than a boy in the company of strangers, in the quiet of a railway station, running scared, laying low, seeking out the poor quarters where the ragged people go, looking for the places only they can go. Lie, 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 lie. boxer hand, a fighter by his trade, and he carries the reminders of every blow that laid him down or cut him till he cried out. In his anger and his shame, I am leaving, but the fighter still remains.
All right, so this next song we're going to do is by the group Mumford & Sons, and it's called I Will Wait. It's actually one of our favorite songs to play. It usually gets people amped up, and we have a lot of fun when we play it. So here it is. Well, I came home like a stone, and I fell heavy into your arms. These days of dust, which we know blow away with this new sun.
hitchhiked to Birmingham if it hadn't been for love. Never would have caught the train to